Come on, here we go, StreamYard. There we go. There we go. Little countdown, little rock and roll music.
What would we be without our canned rock music?
I don't know. Could we even do this show without canned rock music?
I mean, we've done it, not live.
Right.
I'm not saying it's quite the same, but we've done it. So, yeah, that's a good question.
Open wide for some soccer.
Second time that's come up today. The Cottonelle Soccer Association is coming to Springfield. It's all here. Fast kicking, low scoring, and ties. You bet.
Bo Nix is your starting quarterback. You bet. Andrew Mason, I owe you tacos because I didn't think it was going to happen. And it happened. Sean Payton said it, Mace.
He said it without being asked. He did it in his opening statement.
Of course he did.
And here's the funny thing. He didn't tell the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Kubiak, we go back to 2015, for example, every Monday he would say Brock Osweiler is the starting quarterback while Peyton Manning was trying to get healthy, just to kind of set the tone, set the message. He didn't tell the team in part because he said he didn't want to have these big announcements for every position that he was deciding. So he was kind of trying to pop the balloon of pomposity that can go with the proclamation of the quarterback by just as Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, and Zach Wilson came out onto the field this morning for practice telling him, hey, Bo, you're starting week 1.
Go
practice. Go have a good practice, and that's it.
We saw Bo look pretty good.
So think about this. He told the media before he told the team, although you imagine that maybe word was getting around. And like Sean Payton said, the guys had basically figured it out. Everybody knew. And you and I talked about this even last week after hearing from the guys in Indianapolis in the locker room post-game. They knew. The way Mike McGlinchey talked, the way Tim Patrick talked, the way Courtland Sutton talked in Indianapolis, they knew. They knew that the roads were leading to Bo Nix.
Yep.
Maybe more quickly than it seemed like they would at the start of training camp.
Right.
And Sean Payton said even before he didn't tell the whole team like in the huddle after practice. He just had his typical post-practice thing talking about situations they worked on and all that. And then Payton said he went and told the troops, the service people that were watching practice today on the hillside, and then told the media. And that was it. So it's possible that everyone that Bo Nix, it's in his orbit, everyone he knows learned about it from the media.
Yeah.
Not from Bo directly, because he told Bo, and then Bo was already on the practice field. He didn't have a cell phone or anything like that.
Yeah, you'd hope not.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Your QB1, have a good practice.
Exactly. You're starting, and let's go, Bo. And I'm glad the decision was made because I'm going to quote Denzel Washington from Remember the Titans. Leave no doubt.
Yeah.
Leave no doubt. This isn't you and me saying, like, I think Nix is better, and then this play, and then we're nitpicking here, but then Stidham did this. No, it is clear that Bo Nix has separated himself, something that you asked Coach about after practice. Want me to play the clip?
That
you didn't include your question. Yeah, you didn't include your question though. Like in the clip, I watched it, and it's like I wait for Mace's question.
I didn't include it because it was one of those moments. There was a lot of shouting, like at a White House press conference, and you got to make your voice heard. I hate the chaos that goes with that. But yeah, you had such a good lead in. I didn't want to mess with it, but I asked Sean Payton what separated Bo Nix from Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. Here's what he had to say.
The larger body of work, there's certain things right now with Stiddy's experience that you see. I would say, a lot of the off-schedule movement throws, and I think he's been consistent. And it's not really a reflection on Jarrett or even Zach. It's some of the things that he's been able to do pretty quickly. his arm strength down the field, all the things when we evaluated him, you kind of trust your instincts.
Movement, throws, and off schedule. Mace, I'm going to ask you this because I thought of it when Coach said it, and I've been waiting to ask you. Did Bo Nix win this on his first completion to Courtland Sutton? 3rd and 10, 22 yards, super off platform, rolling to his left?
Possibly. I think that was the thing that got the ball moving down the field for him, literally and figuratively. Literally on that drive, figuratively in the quarterback competition. It's interesting because the play was taken off the board because Bo Nix was on the wrong side of the line of scrimmage. But Sean Payton, when he talked about that play on 3rd down where Nix gets out of the pocket and finds Javonte Williams in the end zone, even though Nix was across the line of scrimmage and you just got to make sure that the awareness is there going forward, it was a play that Payton complimented on Sunday, that he thought it was a good play. It was everything that he wanted to see. So I think maybe that first throw to Courtland Sutton in Indianapolis was, what got the ball rolling. And maybe ironically, a play where the touchdown got taken off the board on replay was the end of this drive in the end zone to Bo Nix being QB1 for the Broncos heading into the first week of the regular season.
It's kind of funny how an incompletion can win you a job.
Well, Sean Payton will tell you sometimes an incompletion is not a bad play, although technically it was an illegal forward pass. Technically it goes into the books
as a penalty.
As a 1 yard run and then the yardage for the penalty.
Ah, okay. Very
interesting.
Good.
Something that I noticed in the game book Sunday night after the game is because I thought, okay, how, there are sometimes questions like, how do you score that? I sound like I'm talking about baseball. Like how, you score that. It's scored a 1 yard run and then the penalty assessed. Kind of like how when you have a downfield holding penalty, the runner will get the credit for the yards up to the infraction. So like, let's say you've got a handoff to Jaleel McLaughlin and Garett Bolles gets downfield and 6 yards downfield, he's called for holding. However far McLaughlin goes on that play beyond those 6 yards, like he'll get a 6 yard run and then a 10-yard penalty, which relative to the previous line of scrimmage means you're in 1st and 14. By the way, Bruce Hurdle, Fox 31 today.
Yes, good job, Bruce.
Had relative to in his question.
Yes.
And I didn't want to interrupt, but I wanted to I was standing next to him. I wanted to elbow him and say, yeah, it's gotten in your vernacular too, hasn't it?
Right. He didn't get the good question though. I thought he might get the good question from. Speaking of questions,
because he used relative to, because he talked in Paytonese.
Yes, Paytonese, Payton language. I will ask the 17-game thing. Our good friend Zach Stevens asked the question. I thought it was interesting at that moment to ask that question. Not saying it was a bad question, but it's just like, okay. And Sharon on our chat room's like, do you think there's a scenario? Yes, of course there's a scenario. Do I think that'll happen? No, I don't. Barring injury, Bo Nix is your starter for 17 games.
But you don't do that without knowing the consequences of saying he's a dud.
Right.
Now, that being said, maybe Sean Payton doesn't see those consequences because he has succeeded with reclamation projects. Kerry Collins, Teddy Bridgewater. He had Jameis Winston going in the right direction before Winston tore his ACL. He may look at it and say, well, if I have to go with Zach Wilson for a few weeks, it doesn't mean that Bo Nix isn't going to eventually be my guy, that there is more building left to do perhaps. So I would not dismiss the notion that for Sean Payton, a benching wouldn't be an end point. And he is kind of old school in some ways. He's got an offense that is functions very well schematically in the modern era and continues to evolve. but he does have some old school tendencies, and that would go hand in hand with believing that a benching of a rookie, if the moment warranted it, didn't necessarily mean the end. I mean, the last time the Broncos started a rookie in week 1, of course, at quarterback was John Elway in 1983, and famously he got benched multiple times that year.
Right. Right.
The team went 9-7, qualified for the playoffs. Elway started the regular season finale, but played poorly, and so Dan Reeves in the postseason said, nope, you're out. Steve DeBerg's in for the wild card game in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the offseason, DeBerg was traded to Tampa Bay, and John Elway got the chance in 1984 and was fine. So,
yeah, I could see that. But there's scenarios always open. I do have how Nate says we're Nixon to find out. Like, we'll say that. And Cody says orange and Bolu today. By the way, we do have people asking, like, are they going to keep 3/4? We have another show today.
We're going to get into that.
Yes.
We're going to get into that because Sean Payton, unprompted in one instance, said some really interesting things about Zach Wilson.
Yes, he did.
We will get into that. We're going to talk more about Bo Nix in that second show as well, but we really,
yes.
I want to make sure we focus on that. I may actually write about that tonight at denversports.com in addition to what I'm writing about Bo Nix, because I think there's something interesting going on with QB2.
Yes, that's our second show, OBT2. That'll be out at 8 p.m. Mountain today on YouTube. We'll also put it on our Twitter channels as well. I like the way Bo conducted himself at the podium, Mace, because it wasn't like so excited. Like I think it was me and Troy Rank years ago, and you were in on this too. Guy like Paxton was just happy to make it to the NFL. Bo Nix is not happy to make it to the NFL. Bo Nix is not happy to be named a starter. Bo Nix knows there's more work to do. And I really appreciated his demeanor today. While it was, kind of tempered enthusiasm, Mace, it wasn't just like, I made it, guys. No, this is one of the steps. A lot of steps to go.
Yeah. And there's more work left to do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more work, and work that he can't even conceive of just yet.
Imagine that.
Well, this past game was the first time that Sean Payton was in his ear with the play call, which that'll take some getting used to.
Yeah, having that guy in your ear, you got the angel on one side, the devil on the other, and it's like Sean Payton yelling at you. That's fine. He can take it.
He can take it. This is where I think Bo Nix's demeanor, one of the things that maybe attracted Sean Payton to him, was that Bo has a really even demeanor. And here's the thing about it. Remember with Russell Wilson, there was all this whole stay neutral stuff. Like almost like
never had a bad day. Right.
Yeah. Like just it. And the whole thing felt like Tony Robbins or something like that. It felt like a bunch of BS.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was trying to will himself into being somebody that maybe he wasn't at his core. Basically pushing it down, deep down. With Bo Nix, I think this is just how he is.
Mm-hmm.
That he has a real kind of almost placid demeanor about it. Not getting too high, not getting too low, but it's more natural to him. And I think that's going to result in greater respect within the locker room because, and Nix has talked about this, Sean Payton talked about this today as well. In the leadership part of being a quarterback, you have to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
If you are leading, but you are not leading from a place of authenticity and your personality, there's going to be a short shelf life on it because you're going to be found out. You can't keep that up. This, I think, is who Bo Nix truly is. And
yes.
how he gets whatever path he gets there. I'm sure he'll probably talk about his religious faith as part and parcel of that. However you get there, this is, I think, in his DNA. It's just being kind of cool, calm, collected. Let's not get too high after a great moment. Let's not get too low after a bad moment. Let's go on to the next play. I think that's kind of Bo Nix's thing. Like don't marinate too much. It's sort of like, I don't know if you saw Bull Durham back in the day,
Of course,
when
yeah.
Nuke Lelouch comes to the dugout. He's excited after he struck out a couple of batters in the inning. He seems to be finding his control. And then Kevin Costner, of course, Crash Davis, is telling him like all the little details. And he's like, "Can I enjoy the moment?" And he says, "The moment's over." I think that's Bo Nix a little bit. Like, not that you're not going to savor in things, but there's always that next moment. So don't let yourself get too caught up in what you had in the past. There's something coming down the road, something coming next, like a different defense that's going to try to confound you, because you've got to get right for and get ready for. And so I think that's going to, that part of his mind frame, I think, will serve him very well.
Yes, it's true care. Like, Bo Nix really cares about his performance, and there's no fake, disingenuous, like, I'm a big believer in the power of positive thinking. But at the same time, like, we all have to recognize when you have a bad day or you have a bad play, and Nix does that, and then he's going to fight you back, right? He's not going to let you win. He's a competitor, and you see that fire on the field and sometimes even in press conferences.
Yeah, it's you saw the fire in Mobile.
Yeah.
When you asked him about operating under center, more traditional offense. Can he pick that up? By the way, he has gotten better under center. Like, I know you and I are both concerned about it early in OTAs. Well, lo and behold, as he's done it, as he's gotten used to it, as he's gotten coached up, the process is looking smooth to the point where when he executes the play fake boot action, man, it looks gorgeous. The way he comes out from under center, executes the fake, and then gets outside. Like, it. There are a couple of times I thought, man, he looks like Jake Plummer. Like Jake was, in terms of how to specifically execute the play fake boot. Jake's the best I've seen at that, in terms of how smooth the execution was. And there are a couple of times I had some Jake Plummer flashbacks in practice watching Bo Nix do this, from a guy who basically has had to learn how to operate under center over the last few months, starting with back in Mobile in the Senior Bowl to today. Man, not even 7 months, the progress is palpable and promising, because now it's like he's gone from where he's thinking about every step he takes when he does his drop back from under center to now it's becoming second nature. And so when you see steps taken like that, it's really fun to watch. Like, and I think it's part of why Sean Payton feels rejuvenated, because you get to see this growth day to day in somebody that you're investing a lot of time in. It's
a proud papa moment.
Yeah. If you love this game, you can't not get excited about seeing that sort of growth from somebody on the field.
And it's knowing what work needs to be done. He even mentioned his tell today, which, no, Detroit Mission Control, I'm not going to tell you what the tell is. He mentioned it, mate. I looked over at you. You were looking at him, but I looked at you because there was he talked about the play that he messed up, which,
well, I was looking at him
out.
Because I asked him the question.
Right. But he's talking about how he's got his tell that he needs to clean up.
Yeah.
He had the one play that they repped like 5 times today that they're totally not going to get wrong because he totally messed it up. So again, it's that realistic, like, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to be steady, but I'm also going to work because I know I need it.
Yeah. It was the very specific question I asked. What did you take from the film that was different than your initial perception of things in real time? I didn't. Let's play that. By the way, and I asked it this way because sometimes there are some guys, if you just tell them what you take from the film, you get a generality. I'm like, how do I get something specific out of him? And this is what he said.
A few different things, some mannerisms, some things that I could give away, some cadence stuff, I completely botched one play that needed to fix, and we fixed that a lot. Today, over the last few days, had a whole drill that Davis set up just because of the play I messed up. But that's good because that means you won't mess it up again. And that's one that every time it's called from here on out, I'll always think about that one time I messed it up. But, you always analyze and review the film and see different things that you don't see on the film or on the field. But excited and ready to go to the next one.
On to the next one.
Yeah.
Right.
Got back to the generality there. It was almost like he felt like he was saying too much and he kind of had to reel himself back in at the end.
Yeah, I totally messed that play up. I'll never mess that one up again.
No, but I like that. And
yeah,
I would anticipate that's what a lot of his Wednesdays are going to look like.
For sure. Yeah.
Even if he's had a good game the previous weekend, I would expect that plenty of his Wednesday practices are going to be going over something and fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see this year, even though he has the 61 starts, which is part of what made him more ready to assume this starting role, there are going to be things that he does well at the end of the season that he's not doing well right now.
Yes.
And I really just, I want to sit back and let the season arc progress. I know we're going to talk about it week to week, day to day. That's just what we do. But let's not lose sight of the general arc of things. Let's not lose sight of longer trends. I'm less concerned about Bo Nix's performance in one game as if we're going to put it on a chart, I'm looking at the EPA per play, the CPOE, but I'm looking at over the rolling 4-game sample size to see, what happens. I'm looking at his QBR over 4-game sample size, also because you're taking opponent quality into account. These are things that I think are really worth examining to see where he is at the end if you're looking for numbers. And then when you watch it, you'll probably see things in December, knock on wood that he stays healthy, that you didn't see in September. But that's the exciting part, man. It's
good.
It's gonna be a fun season.
It's a good one. It's a good day. David brings up a great memory. I remember Irv Brown telling us about Elway coming to Denver. I hope we remember this day the same way. It's a monumental day.
It is. It is. Like, I have to admit when Sean Payton was up there and there is that beat, he took a pause before he made the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it was in that pause, I'm like, holy crap, he's going to say it.
When all of us were like, he's not saying it. He's not saying it. There was no team meeting today. He's not saying it.
Yeah.
And then he said it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it was a healthy thing to do. You and I talked about this. I talked about this with other people as well. You didn't need to have it go back and forth these 3 days of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Today was a ramp-up day, getting back to work. Tomorrow, you'll presumably put on full pads and really get some good work in. No reason to carry out the competition for another week. At this point, get Bo Nix all the first-team reps you can in practice. So that's this week, that's next week, and then that's the Seattle prep week, which, if it's like last year's schedule, will actually start on Labor Day, not on Wednesday. There's, teams usually come back and nowadays they do a Labor Day of work. So that is, if I'm just calculating it right here, 2 more practices this week, I believe 3 next week, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 the week after that. So 9 practices left. 10 if we include today. No reason to mess around with this. Give Bo Nix all the first team reps you can.
Yeah, and get him more comfortable. Something that Bo talked about at his press conference today on getting comfortable. Here's what the rookie said.
There's still things that I'm trying to gain comfort in, other things that I feel comfortable with that started early. So I don't think as a quarterback you ever feel, ultimately extremely comfortable because there's always a defense that you're having to go against, always certain things that you see or learn on a daily basis. But, the past few weeks I felt really comfortable, and getting to a different defense, playing these preseason games have really helped me a lot, and I think that's helped in the growth process.
Listen to that maturity, Mace, because how many people are ready for something that they haven't seen yet? You put it out at the beginning of the show. There's lessons that he's going to learn that he doesn't even know he has to learn yet. He already knows that that's coming. That's very, very heady.
It's very heady. He's got a good open mind about it. He's really he's attacking this like an extremely intelligent student, which he appears to be. Like his football IQ is really high.
Yeah, it's through the roof.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me that he would have this sort of mentality based on what we learned about him. The fact that, you listen to him talk ball. I mean, this is somebody who's really smart when it comes to football IQ. And that's part of the equation for a quarterback. You've got to be able to be smart. The reason why it's so hard to find a quarterback is that there's so many things that you have to check off. And if one isn't there, you're not going to be elite. You've got to be athletic enough. You've got to have enough arm strength. You've got to have good fundamentals so you can have accuracy starting from your feet on up. You've got to be intelligent. You've got to be able to relate to your teammates. You've got to, be able to stand in there in the huddle and lead. When you're in Seattle and it's a tight game and there are 66,000 people screaming down your neck to the point where you can't hear. And all you've got is the 11 people there in that huddle that all the 12s and people in neon green are screaming at. And it's why you have to keep swinging a lot of times to find the right guy at quarterback, because very few have all those skills enough to be elite. We'll find out where Bo Nix stands, but seems to have a lot going for him.
Yeah, a lot going for him, and now the Broncos have a lot going for them because their quarterback is Bo Nix. And during the season, to wrap up today's show, and remember, we have a second show coming, but to wrap up this show, Mace, I just want to say, during the season, everyone stay even like Bo, because we're not going to overreact if he throws 3 picks against Seattle. Don't think he will. But if that happens, I'm excited about the next week. What's he going to learn from that? And I did tell everyone that doubted Bo Nix to go to hell today. So I was a little fired up on the radio. And I said, hey, well, before the draft, and I'm writing about this for denversports.com, minus the go to hell thing. But there was so much of that draft hype that Sean Payton talked about. There's the draft part that's entertainment, and then there's the draft part that's ball. And when people get caught in that, he's never a first rounder, and I talked to GMs that said he was a third rounder, like all this bull crap, and I wish I could say what else. All of that is wrong-headed. What's Bo going to be? We're fixing to find out.
Well, and it's funny you say, oh, third rounder, this, that, the other. Sean Payton alluded to, when he was chatting with Diana Rossini and Chase Daniel last week, alluded to, if we see it, other teams see it. As far as, can you move down and get him? Our friend Chad Ryder noted that Bo Nix would not have gotten past the Rams.
Yeah.
Which I think says a lot right there. If Sean McVay and Sean Payton both see something.
If those two guys like you,
there you go. Onward. Do you believe? Do you believe in magic?
I believe in magical thinking, and I believe that Bo has that. So, now the action must follow up the thoughts and emotions.
By the way, I like you getting spicy on the radio today, because I was pretty spicy out at practice today. Like, what y'all are seeing today is very pleasant. Me.
Yeah.
I was not in a very pleasant mood at practice today. So
that's why I did the get open wide for some soccer. I know how to make you laugh, buddy. I'm like your rodeo clown. I'm over here.
Oh gosh. So that's why you brought that up, huh?
Yeah, and I saw it on something, and then I was like,
Okay.
I gotta tell Mace that I saw that because it's so damn funny, especially with my opinion on soccer compared to your opinion on soccer. So I thought it might throw you for a loop.
I love the beautiful game, but I still find that scene hilarious.
Stars that you know and love, like Arriaga and Arriaga 2.
And they'll all be signing autographs. And that's when Homer's like, woohoo!
Woo! All right. Woo-hoo. Yeah, we got a
Bo Nix
dynamic. You're
is the
saucy,
starter.
Mace, and I'm more like steady, right? But I care,
Sometimes.
and you care. Sometimes, I guess.
Sometimes I'm steady and you're saucy. Sometimes we're both saucy. And it's like mixing acids and bases.
All right. We do have a second show coming up today. We're going to talk a little bit more Bo and then how Bo represents a new way to win for the Broncos. We'll go through those numbers. We're going to talk Zach Wilson and maybe getting in a couple of the other little competitions here. But more Orange and Blue today. That'll be out at 8 p.m. Mountain on YouTube. It'll be out on social as well. And that's 10 o'clock Eastern. We had somebody in the chat room ask, like, what time is that Eastern? So 10 o'clock Eastern. Little late night OBT.
Orange and blue tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need a tonight orange and blue tonight logo on here.
We do. Orange and Bolu today. Do you believe? I believe that we need some help on YouTube, Mace. How do people help us out?
Like,
Comment,
share,
subscribe.
hit that notification bell.
So that you
Never miss vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's a BFD. Look it up. Stay tuned. Stay frosty.